Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we're going to be putting the cylinder heads and installing the new camshaft into my Summit Pro LS 5.3 L33 build. And yeah, sorry for the heater noise here in the beginning of the video, but I just got out to the shop and warming it up in here to start working on this engine. So first order of business, the last video we put the bottom end together, the rods, the pistons, and we put the crank and everything into the engine. And I torqued the rod bolts to like 45, 48 foot-pounds. That's kind of what I've always done on the stock stuff. But some guy in the comments actually notified me that the torque spec on these Summit Pro LS rods with the ARP bolts is like 82 foot-pounds on the rod bolt, which is kind of crazy. But I looked up and I did some research, and sure shit, that's what the torque spec is. So went through, loosened them all up, retorqued them all, the rod bolts, to 80 foot-pounds. I went to 80. I didn't quite go to 82, but I went to 80, and they all felt good. They didn't feel sketchy or anything at that torque, but that's what these got to get torqued to. So we went to 80 foot-pounds on the rod bolts, and everything else is pretty much the same since our last video. But yeah, now we are going to be installing the camshaft into the engine, so we're going to start by that, and then we'll put some lifters in, the oil pump, cylinder heads, you know, the finishing touches. And if you guys haven't watched already, last night, me, 821 Bravo, Ryan, and Jack Roberts and Matt Happel from Sloppy Mechanics, we all did a little radio show. Ran on a little while, but it was definitely really fun, and it was a great experience and shared a ton of knowledge. I learned a little bit of stuff, and if you guys want to tune into that, check out Sloppy Mechanics YouTube page. And yeah, the video just went up last night, and it's a cool little thing that we got to do. So thanks again to Matt for having me on the show. I hope to do it again soon. And yeah, it was a good time. Tons of knowledge got spread around, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. So if you want, go check out the radio show and give it a thumbs up. So here are the cylinder heads. I actually just got back from the machine shop. We did check the install heights and everything on these TIC Performance 660 valve springs with the titanium retainers. We installed these valve springs into the head with you know, the valve seals and the locators and everything that they give you with the kit. They give you new keepers, retainers, everything. So it's a great little option from TIC Performance there. So those are the valve springs we're running on the stock 799 cylinder heads. There's no porting or anything done to them. We're just gonna, you know, shove a little bit more boost in it if we have to. And then this is the camshaft that I'm gonna be running in the engine. It's a TIC Performance Stage 3 turbo cam. This is exactly the same cam that I had in the Chev Stang, and it was a little bit lacking for the Chev Stang just because the Chev Stang was a 4.8 liter, and this cam, it doesn't really make a lot of grunt down low, so I was having troubles spooling a larger turbo. I needed a looser converter and stuff to make a bigger turbo happy on that setup. But with this engine being a smidge bit smaller turbos and a little bit bigger engine with a little bit more compression, I think this cam is really gonna shine. I can actually show you the specs here. So here's the cam card. And like I said, this cam with a sheet metal, like Jag's special pop can explode intake manifold, and that camshaft with a PTC converter that I had in the Chev Stang, and that next gen 7875 was kind of the magic combo that, you know, went 873 and has now gone even deeper into the 8s and 530 in the 8th mile down in Georgia. So that car definitely worked really well. And like I said, I think this camshaft, it runs north of 7,000 RPM, and it doesn't really have any sign of slowing down up there. The only reason that the Chev Stang didn't rev any higher is because the turbo was kind of out of breath at that power. But I'm hoping these turbos won't run out of breath, and we're just gonna run it as far as it'll go. So yeah, anyways, we're gonna install this bad boy. First we're gonna get it all lubed up, so we're gonna pull it out of the box and out of the packaging here. I'm not gonna do that one-handed. I'm gonna pull this out, get some assembly lube on it, and we'll shove it in with a water pump bolt. So this engine does have brand new cam bearings in it, and obviously brand new bearings everywhere. So this thing should go right in, but first I'm running lube down the cam here. I don't know if you guys are even in the camera right now, but just gooping her up. Just kind of goop it up as best as I can here with the assembly lube. All right, so we got the cam all gooped up here with assembly lube. I'm gonna take a trusty water pump bolt. I'm gonna thread it into the camshaft here. I'm gonna use this as my handle to guide the camshaft into the engine. I don't know what the fuck that noise was. Came from the wall in my shop. Definitely didn't come from the camshaft. Alright. Anyways, the cam is now installed, so we can unthread the bolt here. Voila. Now we got to put the cam retaining plate on, which I got a brand new one to install. We'll wipe off the surface here. Make sure she's nice and fresh. So I got this cam retaining plate from Street Proven Performance, and it came shipped to my door full of rust, but whatever, it'll still work. And it came with new bolts too, countersunk head, Torx bit. I literally have every size Torx bit socket besides T40. Like, what's the odds of that? So I'm using just a handle style. So now that the cam retaining plate is installed, we are going to time the engine. So we're going to make sure that the crankshaft here dot is straight up and down right between these two bolt holes. I don't even know what these bolt holes are for, if that's for the oil pump or what those are for from the factory. I'm not sure. But anyways, you want to stand this guy straight up and down, and then you want to put your cam gear on essentially with the dot facing straight down. So when it's all said and done, it'll be sitting on there something like that. So we're gonna take the chain and install it onto the gear. So we're gonna take our chain here, we're gonna run it around the gear like that, and then we're gonna rotate it until it sits like this with the dot facing down. So now that it's like that, we can line it up onto here and then spin the camshaft until it is in the right location. So it looks like the cam's gonna have to go counterclockwise a little bit. Right about there. Just like that. Now we thread our bolts in. So now that we got the cam installed, next is the oil pump. We're going to be using a Melling 10295 pump. This is a high pressure pump, but I don't think it's the high volume. I don't have the high volume, high pressure one here, even though I did want to run it. I ran the high volume, high pressure on my last car, and it did great. So I don't think you can have too much oil pressure on a race motor. I don't really think there's a negative to it, but yeah, so we're just gonna run this pump and hopefully it works out. Brand new in the box. I actually got it with a truck that I bought a long time ago. The guy's like, I have a bunch of hot rod parts. I'm like, all right, I'll take them. And one of the parts was a brand new Melling oil pump. So that's what we're putting in. I know some people don't have good luck with them, but I have had good luck, so I'm gonna use it again. Next, we got some of the bolts in the windage tray installed, and we are putting the pickup tube O-ring and pickup tube onto the oil pump now. I'm just taking a little bit more assembly lube, and I'm lubing up the O-ring that goes into the oil pump here. There's two different O-ring styles for these oil pumps, and the green on this melling kit is the one that I need. The black one fits a little bit too loose on here. It's usually pretty self-explanatory what O-ring you need. You know, just get the one that fits the best, and then slowly push it into the oil pump here. I guide it in slowly. There it goes. I'm pretty confident in how that felt going in. Snug. And then there's one bolt on the pickup tube here. So there's gonna be one bolt right here on the pickup tube, and then you have another bolt here and or nut here and nut here for holding the rest of the assembly, and then the rest of the windage tray bolts. And yeah, then I think we could put the oil pan on. All right, so next on the agenda is the front cover. So I just took the old gasket that came off of this, and I just gooped some RTV on it on both sides, and we're gonna throw it on. Alrighty guys, so my camera actually died yesterday when I was out here, and I didn't really go a whole lot farther than I didn't show you guys, but I did get the cam and I put the front cover on and the balancer. I actually got this balancer from Summit. My buddy Murray's Turbo Fox Body on YouTube, he actually recommended to get this balancer, and I put it on. Was a little bit tricky to get installed. I kind of just had to use the bolt to force the balancer on, and I did heat it a little bit, and I lubed the front cover seal just to make sure that you know, I wasn't going to damage the seal when I put this on with a little bit of heat. So I did that, and this is the clearance, because I thought, or I kind of figured that this little gap between the bigger part of the snout on the pulley and the front cover should be, you know, flush with the seal. But I actually measured the spacing off the front cover to the edge of the pulley here and to the inner lip, and I compared it to one of my factory ones that are laying over here in this corner. You know, all my junk engines. And yeah, it's actually good the way it was. Like I said, I just kind of used the bolt, impacted it on, and then I proceeded to, I was going to put the rear main seal on, but it's definitely a little bit tricky when it's on the engine stand, and yeah, that didn't end up working. So I'm going to have to do that last once this is off of the engine stand. But yeah, so now we are actually going to be putting the heads on, and I just, last night when I was out here, I threaded all the ARP studs in, just kind of ran them in by hand until they bottomed out, and then I put the dowel pins in on each corner here. So now we just have to put the head gasket on and then bolt the cylinder head on. I also installed the lifters. I reused my lifter tray buckets, but I got new Morel lifters. I used Morel lifters on my last build and they worked really good, so I got them again on this one. And yeah, so those are all in and installed now. So yeah, let's get to putting the cylinder head on. But first, we need a head gasket. I got a mess going on over here, but you know, that's just what happens, I guess, when you build stuff. So this is the head gasket I'm gonna run. Got it from my engine builder for a pretty good price, and yeah, we're just gonna run it. Last, my 4.8 in the Chev Stang, I had Felpro gaskets from AutoZone, but we're gonna try these Mal gaskets this time. So here's the gasket. It's got like this little blue coating around like the cylinders and stuff like that. I kind of like the design of this gasket. It seems like it'll work pretty good. And then obviously there's a indication here that says front. So we're gonna install it this way. And I already wiped down my surfaces just with like a microfiber. Come on. You gotta set these on here evenly when you have the studs installed. Otherwise they don't like to go down. Give it a little shake. There we go. Now she's installed. Make sure it's around the dowel pins. We'll grab the head and plop it on. Make sure I wipe down the surface of the head, just to make sure that no debris or oil or anything like that is sitting on the surface here, which there was a little bit. So it's good to just give it one final wipe down before I put it on the engine. I like to start the bottom two studs first, and then tip it up and on, just like that. And then we'll give it a little whack like that to make sure it seats onto the dowel pins. And we're dog pile chicken smile. So next we're going to install the ARP washers, which these ARP washers actually have like a grooving in them. Focus. There it is. You can see that they have like little indentations. Those go towards the cylinder head so the washer doesn't move around when you're torquing it. So we're going to put those grooves down on all of them. Next we'll grab our ARP nuts and some assembly lube or ARP lube. And what I always do is I take the nut and I put it in my 14mm 12-point socket here. And I take the lube and I just squirt a little bit onto the focus. I squirt a little bit onto the bottom of the nut here, so when it engages, it's got lube on it. Instead of trying to lube all the threads with your finger or whatever, I just put it a little on the bottom of the nut. This camera won't fucking focus. Come on. Oh yeah, look at all that lube on the bottom of the nut. So I just run them in by hand. Do that to all 10 of the big studs. And then you have the little guys up top. Next we have all the little guys here. These are the 10mm 12-point, and then the little washers that go on the 5 top bolts for the cylinder head. They're kind of useless, but we put them on just because. Alrighty guys, I got the heads all torqued down. They're all installed onto the engine now. I did, the ARP calls for 25, 50, and then, let me see here on the instructions. Yeah, it calls for 25, 50, and then 80. So I went 35, 60, and 90. Why not? A little bit more torque. I always go a little bit over on the head studs just cause. Like 5 foot-pounds or so. I think I actually went to 88 because I feel like if we torque them to 88, then we'll go back to the future and maybe go really fast. So anyways, that's what I did. I torqued them all down. I got the rockers and push rods installed. That stuff's like super self-explanatory. Just drop the push rods in, and then I torqued the rockers all down. I put trunnion upgrade in the rocker arms and then put them all together at my machinist with him from Michigan Motorsports. That's where I got the trunnions from. And yeah, everything's torqued down and the engine is completed. I put the rear main seal on, the oil pan, and everything. I mean, here she is. I actually moved it out of the corner. I got a freaking mess going on at my shop right now, just freaking doing a ton of stuff. But this is just an intake I threw on. I'm not actually using this high ram. I'll actually take it off here. Fucking thing weighs like 30 pounds, 50 pounds. It's freaking giant. So anyways, there she is. I got all my sensors installed. Cam sensor, oil pressure sensor, crank sensor down there. These are all the sensors that came out of this engine. I just put them right back in because I don't like using, you know, replacement sensors. I like to use OEM only, and if the ones from the factory worked, just throw them right back in. No sense in changing them. I've had people change the sensors and then have issues, so I'm just gonna keep it simple and use what I know works. I got my engine mounts installed. These engine mounts actually came with my Mustang when I bought it, so I just put these on. They're solid mounts. I don't know how I feel about them, but we're probably just going to use it because they actually position the engine in a really good spot. And I got an ICT billet valley cover here that I'm not putting on yet because I have to put the engine in the car, and that can't be on while I do that. Yeah, that's about it. And I proceeded to, I've been out here working on this trailer all day. This snowmobile trailer I've been working on, I got it for free, but it rotted out under this wood right here. Was right under that wood where there's a hole. It rusted out. The axle was broken off of the frame, so I just like, honestly, I goobered some fucking shit down in here to hold it. So now it's solid and I can haul my snowmobiles around, so that's pretty cool. But that's what I've been doing a lot of today. And yeah, I pushed the Mustang back on the lift after I got done doing that, and I just yanked out the motor that was in here, the mock-up motor, and I moved that out of the way. And then yeah, probably just gonna clean up a little bit and head home for the night. But I did get some stuff done, got the engine completely assembled, and from here, my new intake is gonna be here tomorrow. The intake I'm actually gonna use, but my other stuff that goes with the intake isn't gonna be here quite yet. But I would like to maybe get the transmission and torque converter all bolted onto the engine tomorrow and possibly get it into the car actually bolted up with the cross member and stuff, because my guy that's going to do the roll cage actually wants me to have the engine and transmission in it. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to get the transmission, converter, I'm going to get converter bolts and bell housing bolts and stuff tomorrow so I can bolt it all together and then plop it into the car. I don't know what's going to be easier, if I just put the engine in and then the transmission afterwards. That's probably going to be easier than trying to stuff the engine and transmission all at once kind of thing. But I would like to check my spacing on the converter and everything like that before I put it in. I guess it doesn't really matter. I could do it in the car too. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so other news, if you guys made it this long, I'm just going to babble for a second. I got so many hot rod parts here and so much cool stuff. It's just, all this stuff takes so much time, guys, and it's, you know, it's all coming along, but I have everything to put the Cavalier together. I'm dropping the cylinder heads off tonight, and they should be done by tomorrow. The guy's super quick at putting the heads together for me. So we're gonna have a ton of stuff for the Cavalier that I'll probably talk about in another video, the same stuff you're hearing now, but if y'all made it to the end, you get to know before anybody else, right? But we do got the cam, a converter, transmission's all built, manual valve body, and I have a 6-liter over here that I'm slowly working on. And I'm probably just gonna send this thing kind of as is. I pulled 2 of the rods out just to kind of check crank surface and stuff like that, and it all looks really good. The bearings look good. Probably just tighten it all back up, throw it back together, and send it. Hopefully the cam bearings aren't super bad, just because I hate when these engines have no oil pressure, and that's usually the main culprit, is the cam bearings have wiped. So I'll just kind of inspect them, make sure they're not super bad, and if that checks out, honestly, probably just chuck this thing together kind of sloppy style, and do cam heads and valve springs, or cam heads, yeah, cam and valve springs, but I'm throwing a different set of heads on. All motor 6-liter, should be a ripper. I'm trying to make like north of 400 horsepower or 450 naturally aspirated, so that's going to be really fun. And then the only other thing is I'm going to have to figure out my engine mount situation and an oil pan, because this setup, the oil pan doesn't really clear in the front because the steering rack on the Cavalier is a little bit too tight, so I got to figure out an oil pan situation. But yeah, anyways, that's gonna be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, the final assembly of this thing. It's all done, and then we're gonna be, I got so much other stuff to make videos on too. I get overwhelmed really easy. Like if I have this, and this that I could all film and talk about, I don't fucking do any of it. So that's kind of annoying, but got a bunch of goodies from ICT Billet here that I want to talk about. Probably make a whole video dedicated to these guys because they were so awesome to me. I'd like to give them some recognition. But yeah, anyways, have a great night. Better tomorrow. We'll see you later.